Hey everyone, welcome to another rankings video. We are on to our midfielders now. If you haven't checked them out yet, check out the goalkeepers and defense top 5 rankings so far. And if you've been enjoying it so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Going for 300 subscribers before we start out our season on the 19th. So without further ado, we will get going as per usual, starting from 5, going towards the most valuable midfielder to have. The first one I have is Nicolas Gonzalez. Now there are players that aren't on this list that are probably better than him, but I think based on his production on Fiorentina, which is a decent Serie A club, haven't been as great the last couple seasons, but he has been a player that stands out on these clubs as of late, and he's only 6.6 million. So he's outperformed the strikers on Fiorentina the last couple seasons. I think he was better than both Jovic and Cabral last year as a midfielder, and I have found that midfield has been the hardest position on where to decide where to get players because you can't get all the top midfielders as they are pretty expensive based on their production, I think. So he is a bit of a budget midfielder, gets consistent minutes for Fiorentina, and does get pretty good returns. And so that is why I have him at number 5 on the list. The fourth one is Gabriel Strefezza. He had a great season last year. I got him in way too late. He is a really standout player on a weak Lecce side. For a midfielder, he gets forward quite a bit. He's more of a winger, like a forward winger rather than a kind of midway winger. And he's a very budget midfielder, really allows money to be spread elsewhere throughout your team, especially if you're going for the big hitting forwards like Osimhen, Lautaro Martinez, Immobile, and so forth. So again, obviously a player who isn't going to be on here, let's say like Chiesa, I'd say he's a better midfielder than Strefezza, probably will outscore him, but for maybe a 5th midfielder to have and sometimes bench, I think Strefezza is a great option. All right, now one that probably everyone is kind of wondering about is Kvaratskhelia. I think I kind of got the name-ish down after a full season last year. And I don't know, some people might be thinking he should be number 1 based on the season he has. He was the Serie A MVP last year. Absolutely correct in that. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. But for me, he's only had 1 season in Serie A so far, absolutely excelled and could excel again this year. But in order for there to be a 12 million euro price point, I'd like to see a little more consistency out of that. And that's why he is not my team yet. In addition, I'd assume that most people are going to want to have Osimhen as part of their fantasy rosters, and to have both your Napoli players both at 12 million euros, that is an expensive pairing. Could be a very good pairing, just like it was last year for many people. But now, last year, Kvaratskhelia was more of a budget midfielder, and now he's the top of the top premium. So something to keep in mind is he may not be as attractive of an option, even if he still does do well at this price point. But at the end of the day, he is still playing with some of the best attackers in Serie A. And just one other thing to keep in mind, he did get rotated a bit last year. Do you want a 12 million euro midfielder being rotated, even if he's playing 66%? If I'm paying that price, I'd want to see them be playing 90% of the games. Have Rafael Leao lining up as number 2. He has been playing in the league for quite a while, a proven elite attacker in Serie A. He does have a tendency to be streaky. He'll get multiple returns many games in a row and then go 5 games with getting no attacking returns. So sometimes you need to catch him at the right time. But he is one of the few nailed on top level midfielders in the league. There's in a lot of the Serie A teams, there's a lot of rotation that goes around in the midfield. Leao is pretty locked in normally with the Milan side. And he's going to have a lot of new pieces to play around with Pulisic coming in and some other new players to play around. Some of the strikers for Milan are getting old, with Giroud, Ibrahimovic gone. So he's just going to have some new players to play around, which I guess could affect him negatively as well. But the type of player he has, I bet getting to play with some more youthful players will have a positive impact on his production. And number one, some people may agree, may disagree with this decision, but I'm going to put Domenico Berardi at 10 mil as the best midfielder that you could have, and I do not have him in my squad right now, so maybe you can see that as contradictory to what I'm saying. But he consistently performs well on a mediocre Serie A team in Sassuolo. And there are heavy rumors that he will be getting a transfer to, I believe the leading rumor right now is Lazio. If he becomes a consistent starter on Lazio, playing alongside the likes of Immobile, Zaccagni, and players like this, I could see him getting even more attacking returns than he normally does. He's basically the only person that gets attacking returns on Sassuolo. Now he's going to have bigger pieces to get more assists. He may lose out on penalties to Immobile, which maybe that diminishes his value a little bit. But I just think he'll be with a much more elite class of forwards and have more opportunities around the goal. And while this is an expensive price point, it isn't the 11s and 12s. So a little bit more flexibility to spread money around if this is your one elite midfielder. And even if he does stay on Sassuolo, we know that he can produce big points there. And then that wouldn't take up a spot on a big team like Lazio. And you can still have two Lazio players at that point. So you can still get Immobile and either one of their midfielders or defensive options, especially if you're going with like a goalkeeper like Provedel or something like that. But Domenico Berardi is I'd say most touted midfielder right now. Definitely arguable. But that's what I'm going to go with based on price point, potential transfer, and proven attacker. You didn't think I was going to go through a midfielder video without mentioning Paulo Dybala at some point, did you? I just wanted to add him as an honorable mention because right away when I built my squad, I definitely had Dybala in there with the fixture run that Roma had. Or has to start out the season, as well as him probably being the best attacker in the squad. But as most of us have probably already heard, he has already sustained an injury during preseason, and we know that's the issue with Dybala constantly getting injured. But if he is ready to start the season, I'm not sure the length of the injury. If you know, feel free to drop in the comments. But I would consider getting Dybala in my squad with these fixtures that Roma have coming up, and he is generally on penalties when he's in the Roma squad. So yes, he's one of my favorite players in Serie A, and he did come from my team, Juve before Palermo. Obviously, I'm not saying that he was grown in Torino, but yeah, I would just a player to consider if healthy, but as of right now, not a game week 1 team player to have in your lineup. So thanks again for watching another ratings video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. Help get that count up before we get our season going and the dialogue starting. Let me know what you have as your top 5 midfielders, and we'll get to our strikers and attackers tomorrow. Take care.